The day I found out I had stomach cancer was also the last day of my 3-year contract marriage with Amelia. She seemed like she couldn't wait to put the divorce papers in front of me, and then leave to be with the man she considered her true love. When she saw me sign the agreement without making a scene, her expression changed for a moment, almost softening. "You're not going to cause any trouble this time?" she asked. I kept my eyes down. "No," I said. "I'm finished." I walked out into the snowy winter night. Later, I heard she searched everywhere for me, but she never saw me again. When I left the hospital, a light snow had begun to fall. The flakes drifted down slowly, and I watched them for a moment before letting out a breath of white mist into the cold air. I took out my phone, thinking about texting Amelia, but then decided against it and just looked for a ride home. She was probably preoccupied with the divorce anyway. Today was the day our contract officially ended. She had tolerated me for 3 years to satisfy her grandmother, Eleanor, and to secure her position in the company. As I expected, when I walked into the house, she was there waiting for me with that familiar, cold look in her eyes. Before the snow on my shoulders even had a chance to melt, she pushed the signed divorce agreement across the table toward me. I picked up the papers out of habit and glanced over them. "Is the money enough?" Her voice was mocking. "If it's not, I can give you more." "I'll give you anything you want," I replied, my voice flat. "Just don't appear in front of me and Mark ever again." Seeing that I was quiet, she must have assumed I was planning something. "Eleanor is gone now," she said sharply. "There's no one left to fall for your act." I stood there for a second, feeling a bit dazed. Then I calmly signed my name on the document. "All right." She didn't seem to expect me to agree so easily. "You're not going to make a fuss?" she asked again. In the past, I had always resisted the idea of divorce, no matter what, but I didn't have the energy for it anymore. I felt the folded-up doctor's report in my pocket, the one detailing my mid to late-stage stomach cancer, and just said quietly, "No, I'm done." There was no point in fighting. My time was limited. My calm demeanor seemed to make her curious. "This is the first time you've been so reasonable. It's strange. Is it because Eleanor's gone that you've suddenly grown a conscience?" I started walking toward the stairs to pack my things without looking back at her. "I'll say this one last time," I said over my shoulder. "Eleanor's death had nothing to do with me." I heard her give a cold, dismissive laugh. I didn't have much to pack, just a few sets of clothes and some personal items. I had arrived with nothing, and I was leaving with nothing. When I came back downstairs, I saw her waiting by the door for Mark. They stood together in the falling snow. His quick footprints showed how he had rushed to her. He was laughing, his cheeks rosy from the cold, and she was gently cradling his face in her hands as if he were the most precious thing in the world. "Why did you run over here like that?" Amelia's voice had a playful, scolding tone. "Because I wanted to see you." Mark's happy laugh carried over to where I was standing. Amelia held him even closer and brushed the snow from his hair. "I'll pick you up next time," she said softly. "You'll catch a cold." I felt a tightness in my throat and walked past them, pretending not to hear. The snowflakes landed on my shoulders, quickly forming a white layer, but I didn't feel the cold. "Hey, Leo," Mark called out. He tossed a dirty little stuffed toy onto the ground in front of me. "Amelia gave this to me, but I think it's ugly. You can have it back." I looked at Mark for a long moment before bending down to pick up the toy. He pretended to be frightened and hid behind Amelia. "He looks so scary," he said. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Amelia stood across from me, her face hard to see clearly in the wind and snow. "Goodbye, Leo," she said. "I hope we never see each other again." The snow started to fall more heavily, and I stood there in the winter night, feeling lost. I held out my hand to catch the snowflakes, watching the tiny pieces of ice melt in my palm, the chill spreading through my skin. I pulled the diagnosis out of my pocket again, read through the words one last time, and then tore it into small pieces, letting them scatter into the snow. I had tried my best to love her. I really had. My two most significant encounters with Amelia were both accidents. The first time I was just a kid, and I risked my life to save her from drowning in a river. She gave me a small jade pendant and told me that when I grew up I should come find her in City C. I believed her. The second time was years later, after that same pendant had been stolen from me. She saved me from a bad situation. She saw the fear on my face and asked if I wanted to make a deal with her. So, to please her grandmother, Eleanor, I became her husband in name only. We were married quickly, and Amelia took control of the family company. "I'll rent you for 3 years," she had told me. "After that, we get a divorce." I remember lowering my eyes, trying to hide my disappointment. Why didn't she recognize me? She was the girl I had saved all those years ago, but without the pendant as proof, she saw me as a stranger. I, on the other hand, had recognized her instantly and had already fallen for her. I was naive back then, thinking she would eventually remember what happened between us. She was always distant and cold, but whenever we were in front of Eleanor, her warmth would make my heart soften. If it was all just an act, it was a very convincing one. Amelia was a strong person. The moment she would leave Eleanor's study, the gentleness would disappear, and her indifferent eyes would leave me feeling hollow. That's why I enjoyed spending time with Eleanor. I thought it might make Amelia care for me more. Eleanor liked me a lot. She even told Amelia to stop looking for the boy with the pendant. "Maybe Leo is the one you're looking for," she'd say. But Amelia was stubborn. "He doesn't have the jade pendant," she would reply. "He's not the one." A bitter smile would cross my face. She was right. I didn't have it. It had been taken from me by some thugs. Then, one day, I saw it hanging around Mark's neck. The moment I saw the intense look in Amelia's eyes as she stared at it, I knew her heart had gone with the pendant. I waited for what felt like forever before a taxi finally pulled over. The headlights snapped me back to the present. I got in and told the driver to take me to the airport. Outside, the snow continued to fall in the dark night. The hum of the engine was the only sound. The warmth inside the car made me feel drowsy, and I drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, the driver was gently telling me we had arrived. I looked at the departure board and chose the quickest flight out of the city. I hated this place now. Other than the orphanage where I grew up, I had nowhere else to go. But I didn't want to go back there. I couldn't stand the thought of Amelia anymore. Her phoniness, her indifference, and how she had mistaken a fraud for the real thing. My stomach twisted with a sharp pain, reminding me of my condition. I bought some hot food from a fast food counter and ate it slowly. It was 4 a.m, and I had no appetite. After just a few bites, I felt nauseous. Frustrated tears welled in my eyes. I'd always hated wasting things, and I hated the weak person I was becoming. I could still picture Amelia's judgmental stare, the way she looked at me like I was garbage. She accused me of faking it, of acting, just because I couldn't eat a dish Mark had cooked. He knew I was allergic to bell peppers, yet he'd loaded the dish with them, mixing them into the rice so they were impossible to pick out. "Leo is making you dinner and you're being this picky?" she had snapped before I could even explain my allergy. "Or is it that you just can't stand him? I think you're just spoiled." Her face was cold with resentment, as if I were completely at fault. To prove her wrong, I forced myself to eat it, mouthful by painful mouthful. My body broke out in hives, and I struggled to breathe. Only then did a flicker of panic and guilt cross her face. Mark claimed he didn't know. I ended up in the hospital, and I never received an apology. The boarding call for my flight sounded, and I left the city behind. After I was gone, Amelia started planning her wedding to Mark. She had finally gotten the company, and she believed the man she truly loved. But a strange sense of anxiety, like a bad premonition, wouldn't leave her alone. She would visit Eleanor's grave, looking for answers, but found only the quiet sound of falling snow. "Eleanor, I found the boy with the jade pendant," she would whisper. "But why can't I stop thinking about that other man?" The day I left, my eyes had been completely empty of emotion. It was an unsettling calm that bothered her. She remembered how Mark had thrown the stuffed toy at me, and how it pained her to watch me crouch down to pick it up. That wasn't the Leo she knew. Had I finally accepted my fate, or had I just let go? The house was much quieter without me. Sometimes Amelia would find herself thinking about the times we had visited her grandmother together. The warm evening sun would light up the room, and my laughter would fill the space, clean and pure. She wished those moments could have lasted forever, a thought that startled her. She would glance at Mark asleep beside her, the jade pendant shimmering on the nightstand. Had she really made a mistake? The pendant was with Mark, after all. I had no proof. Why should she have trusted me? She gazed out at the falling snow, thinking about how I had left on a night just like this. What was I doing now? Was I cold? With the little luggage I owned, I boarded the plane. Staring out at the snow-covered landscape below, I realized I hadn't gotten the chance to say a final goodbye to Eleanor. She was a woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, but she always had a sweet smile for me. She treated me better than anyone in that house. She would whisper to me, telling me not to worry about who had the pendant. To her, it didn't matter. She believed I was the one who had saved her granddaughter. Her warm, perceptive gaze seemed to see right through everything. She saw how much I loved Amelia, and even when Mark appeared with the pendant, she still considered me her only grandson-in-law. She would scold Amelia for being narrow-minded, just like her mother, for only seeing the pendant and not the person. But Amelia was stubborn and refused to listen. As time went on, Eleanor's health declined rapidly. She knew her days were limited, and she worried about my relationship with Amelia, but she had already handed over control of the company and was powerless. One rainy night, after another argument with Amelia had left me feeling hurt, I had a strong feeling I needed to see her. I rushed through the storm to her hospital room. She was too weak to even sit up, but her tired eyes lit up when she saw me. I wept silently by her bedside, full of unspoken pain. She reached out with a cold, worn hand and gently stroked my head. "She doesn't believe me," I sobbed. "Amelia doesn't believe a word I say, but I was the one who saved her." Seeing how distraught I was, she gently lifted my chin. "Leo, remember this. It doesn't matter who has the pendant. What matters is if she truly loves you. If her love is real, she'll believe you." I felt embarrassed for losing my composure and quickly said goodbye before rushing out of the hospital. The next morning, Eleanor passed away. I was the last person to have seen her alive. Amelia, influenced by Mark, believed I must have said something to upset her grandmother, causing her death. "We've been married for almost 3 years, I asked her, my eyes full of disbelief. "And you won't believe a single word I say? Don't you think that's ridiculous, Amelia?" Her gaze hardened. "Leo, don't forget your place," she said coldly, while Mark nestled against her, agreeing softly. "If I hadn't warned Amelia about your schemes beforehand, she might have actually been fooled by you. He had guessed I would try to tell her the truth, and had poisoned her against me first. The most critical point was that the pendant wasn't with me. Without it, she would never believe my story. "Why did you have to see her the night before she died?" Mark pressed, making me look even guiltier. I lowered my head, overwhelmed with sorrow. In Amelia's eyes, this was an admission of guilt. The angrier she got, the more she looked at me with contempt. She had me locked in my room, preventing me from even attending Eleanor's funeral. I never got to see her one last time. "Excuse me, sir, do you need any help?" The kind voice of a flight attendant pulled me from my thoughts. I gratefully took the towel she offered and wiped the tears from my face. Eleanor was right. Amelia and I were never meant to be. Looking out the window, I could see the first faint light of dawn. After Eleanor passed, the date of my divorce from Amelia grew closer every day. She became even more distant, often staying out all night with Mark. My initial despair turned into a quiet acceptance. I just felt tired. I wanted my heart to rest. Mark's constant interference only made Amelia dislike me more. In her eyes, I was just a clown trying to take his place. But did she really feel nothing for me at all? Not quite. For 3 years, she always made sure I had what I needed. She accepted my gifts, though without any visible joy or disgust. Once, after a misunderstanding instigated by Mark, she screamed at me again. I couldn't take it anymore, and we had a huge fight. I accused her of only caring about the pendant and not being able to tell right from wrong. Furious, she raised her hand to slap me. In that moment, I felt true despair, realizing she could be so heartless over another man. I may have been a husband on contract, but I was still legally her partner. I had stayed with her for 3 years, investing so much emotion and effort, and she was ready to hit me over a few words from Mark. "Go ahead, hit me," I cried out, my voice cracking. "Grandma is watching you. She won't forgive you." My tears and fury seemed to catch her off guard. In her mind, I had always been mild-mannered. "I told you it wasn't me. Why can't you just believe me for once?" I shouted, pointing between her and Mark. "You're the one who let the cat out, but you blame me for it? Are there no cameras in this house? You'd rather believe his nonsense than check the footage yourself." At the sight of my raw anguish, Amelia's expression softened slightly. "Okay, stop crying," she said, awkwardly trying to comfort me, but I slapped her hand away. "Don't touch me," I choked out, heartbroken, and stumbled away. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I went outside to sit on the swing, feeling numb. I hated my own weakness, my inability to stand up to Mark. He had power and money. I was just an orphan. Thinking of Eleanor, tears started to fall again. Suddenly, I felt a presence beside me. "I'm sorry about tonight," a soft voice said. It was Amelia. The night wind was cold, and I pulled my robe tighter. "What are you doing here? Here to apologize?" "I shouldn't have raised my hand to you," she said. In the darkness, her eyes seemed to shimmer. "Give me back the toy," I said, holding out my hand. "No, you gave it to me," she murmured. "If you don't love me, give it back." She looked at me, her expression unreadable. "You know our agreement didn't include feelings. We had made a pact that neither of us was obligated to respond to the other's emotions." I stopped and forced a bitter smile. "Right, it wasn't in the contract." "Amelia," I asked quietly into the dark, "is seeing really believing?" I couldn't make out her expression. Without waiting for her to reply, I got up and left. The plane landed, and I was on the other side of the ocean. My head felt foggy, as if I were in a dream. It wasn't until I looked down and saw the little toy in my hand that reality hit me. Amelia and I were divorced. Even with my life ticking away, I wanted to enjoy whatever time I had left. I wasn't afraid of dying. My heart had already died once. If I had one regret, it was not being able to see Eleanor one last time. Don't worry, Grandma, I thought. I'll come find you soon. After arriving and getting some rest, I took some painkillers and went to the beach. The winter beach was empty. I knelt and touched the icy water, the wind sharp against my face. It felt good clearing my head. It was different from the warm beach I remembered visiting with Amelia, but I liked it. Why was I only now starting to see the beauty in life? Maybe I had been trapped for too long by the idea of that jade pendant. Now, whoever Amelia wanted to be with had nothing to do with me. I could feel my love for her starting to fade, and that was a good thing. I stayed there for a while, but soon the pains in my stomach became more frequent and intense, too much for the painkillers to handle. I had to check into a hospital. In just 2 weeks, my condition had worsened significantly. I knew I didn't have much time left. An electronic wedding invitation popped up on my phone from Amelia. She had sent her location, wanting me to witness her marriage to Mark. I looked at my latest medical reports. The cancer was spreading quickly. The doctor asked if I wanted to start chemotherapy. I just shook my head and smiled. No. I blocked Amelia's number. Back in her city, she tried to call me but couldn't get through. A sharp, inexplicable pain hit her heart. On her wedding day, she kept waiting for me to show up and cause a scene, but I never did. The growing unease she felt was unbearable. She couldn't sit still. She tracked my financial records and found out I had checked into a hospital abroad. Then, a servant found some torn scraps of paper with my name on them near our old house, pieces of my diagnosis. Everything pointed to the worst possible conclusion. She frantically pieced together the information and contacted the hospital. When the doctor on the other end confirmed it, she froze in shock. Her eyes turned red as she shouted at the doctor over the phone, pointing at the report she'd had faxed to her. "How could this be? Leo can't have stomach cancer. This is another one of his acts, isn't it? You must be helping him. How much did he pay you? I'll double it." The doctor just sounded confused. "Ma'am, no one would joke about their own death." Amelia felt all the strength drain from her body, and she collapsed into a chair. Eleanor's words came back to her. The jade pendant doesn't tell the whole story. Use your heart. She remembered me asking her in the dark, "Does seeing really mean believing?" She booked a private plane immediately, leaving Mark behind at the altar. She vaguely suspected something was wrong with his story, but right now, all she wanted was to find me. When she rushed to the hospital, however, the staff told her the patient in that room had already checked out. No one knew where I had gone. They just said I was a cheerful but stubborn guy who had declined treatment and left a couple of days ago. Looking out over the bustling city, Amelia felt helpless for the first time in her life. She discovered I had donated the entire divorce settlement to a local orphanage, keeping nothing. A frail, pale Leo. Where could he have gone? She didn't want to admit she was searching for me out of love. She told herself she just wanted answers about the pendant. So she started visiting every orphanage in the area, one by one, her heart heavy with a suffocating feeling. Just before I left the hospital, I made one last call. To Mark. A deep voice answered. "Hello?" Weakly, I said, "Mark, congratulations on the wedding." He chuckled. "Thanks for getting out of the way, Leo. You lost. The pendant, Amelia. You lost everything." Even through the phone, I could picture his triumphant grin. "I did lose," I said, looking down at my pale hand. "But you might not win for long." "Jealous?" he taunted. "Not at all. You can have her. I don't need her anymore," I said calmly. "You can't swim, can you, Mark? Trauma is a very convenient excuse." The man on the other end of the line went silent. "So what? You never beat me?" "You know," I said softly, "whatever you steal will eventually come back to harm you. Taking what isn't yours never ends well." "Good luck, Mark. Be ready to answer Amelia's questions when she starts doubting you." Wait, what do you— I hung up, feeling a little lighter. I had wanted revenge, but without a healthy body there wasn't much I could do. This was enough. I asked the doctor to discharge me the next day. I didn't want to spend my final days in such a cold, sterile place. I'd rather die in the sun, in the springtime. But spring wasn't going to come for me. The cancer was eating away at my life. I really did want to live. I had struggled my way out of an orphanage, but life had dealt me a cruel hand. I decided I wanted to see the ocean one more time. Even though the country I was in was covered in snow, I still wanted to see it. And I hoped Amelia would never find me. When Amelia finally returned home, her face was dark. She found Mark playfully teasing the cat and shouted his name. He turned pale. A storm was brewing in her eyes. "What happened?" he asked, trying to force his usual cheerful smile. "Is there something you want to confess to me?" she asked, her own smile cold and menacing. Her dark eyes were filled with suspicion. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." "Stop pretending," she said, advancing on him. "Can you swim or not?" His heart pounded with fear. "Did you find the jade pendant, or did you take it?" He lost his composure completely. "Did Leo tell you something? That annoying guy—" "Enough!" she snapped, crouching down and pinching his face harshly. He cried out in pain. "Don't answer my questions with more questions. My patience is gone." He was terrified. It was the first time he had ever seen such murderous intent in her eyes. "Don't you trust me anymore?" he asked, tears welling in his eyes. Normally, a woman's heart might soften at such a sight, but all Amelia could picture was the image of my own swollen, desperate eyes after the allergy incident. She felt nothing but annoyance at his tears. "So tell me," she said calmly, "what was I wearing the day you saved me? Where did you save me?" Mark thought he had rehearsed the answers, but as soon as he started speaking, her eyebrows furrowed. "No, that's not right. I wasn't wearing black that day." "Not black?" he stammered, his pulse racing. "I was wearing white." "Oh, white, yeah. It was so long ago I can barely remember." But her expression only grew colder. She realized he was just guessing, being led by her hints. The truth was just as Eleanor had said. I was the boy who had saved her. Looking at the pale, trembling man in front of her, she laughed coldly. "Actually, I was wearing black that day." Everything was suddenly crystal clear. She would deal with him when she got back. With that, she turned and boarded a flight back to the snowy country where I was last seen, leaving Mark to tremble and await his fate. Amelia felt a crushing sense of guilt. For a meaningless pendant, she had hurt the person she now realized she truly loved. She wanted to tell me that the stuffed toy I gave her was adorable, and that she loved it. She longed to say sorry to my face. I leaned my head against the window of the small cabin I had rented. Inside, a fire was crackling in the fireplace. My life felt like a flickering candle. We did have some beautiful moments, I thought. We once watched the sea together before Mark showed up. Amelia had gotten drunk, spilling all sorts of nonsense, her breath tickling my ear. My face had flushed, but I pretended to be composed. She babbled on before falling asleep with her head on my lap. The usually authoritative woman was like a purring cat with its guard down. It was the first time I realized how soft her hair was. The salty sea breeze couldn't blow away her scent. I tentatively touched her face, brushing my fingers over her long eyelashes. I wished we could have stayed like that forever. But when she woke up, we silently agreed never to speak of it again. "I'm here to play!" A cheerful boy's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. The boy, Edward, was the son of the cabin's owner. His family, after hearing about my situation, had cut my rent in half. The kindness of strangers always managed to warm my cold heart. Edward often visited, and I would teach him to read and write. Seeing his bright, smiling face softened something inside me. Amelia sometimes looked at me that way, but mostly her face was a stern mask. The jade pendant was her obsession, and it made her ignore the people who loved her most. My body was getting thinner every day. I used to be able to buy my own groceries, but now I had to rely on Edward's family to bring me food. My appetite was gone. Eating just made me throw up. I could only sip water and force down some glucose solution to stay alive. One day, when I was feeling a little better, I decided to write a letter to Amelia. Holding the pen was difficult, and my handwriting was shaky, but I managed to finish it. Looking at the heavy snowfall outside, I suddenly wanted to go out and see the ocean one last time. I had a long dream. I dreamt of the day I found her. I was running from the orphanage when I saw a sack squirming by the river. I dragged it to shore and untied it to find a pale girl's face inside. I performed CPR, and she soon woke up. She gave me the exquisite jade pendant. "Come find me in City C someday," she said. "I'll repay you." Years later, I saved up enough money to go, but life in the big city was hard. One day, a group of thugs beat me up and stole the pendant, the only thing that connected me to her. And then Amelia appeared in my life again, as if she'd fallen from the sky. I wanted to tell her I had lost the pendant, but her indifferent face made me hesitate. I thought we had time. I didn't know that missing that one chance meant she would never trust me again. Did she ever love me during those 3 years? "I don't care if you have the pendant," she had said once when she was drunk. "You alone are enough." I held on to those words for a long time, but now I was just so tired. By the time Amelia found the right cabin, the snow around it had started to melt. She had searched all the orphanages with no luck. The cabin's owner paused when she asked about a frail boy. "That tenant has passed away," he said gently. Amelia staggered, the last bit of hope extinguished by his words. Her pupils shrank. "He's dead?" she whispered. "Could you please open the door for me?" she asked numbly. The owner's son, Edward, looked up at her. "Are you Amelia? Leo mentioned you—" The cabin door creaked open. Inside, other than a bed and a desk, it was empty. The fire was long dead. Amelia wandered the room, her lips quivering. She sat on the edge of the cold bed, unable to believe he had died right here. She couldn't hold it in any longer and broke down, her sobs racking her body. "I'm sorry, Leo, I'm so sorry. I'm such a fool." He was always so scared of pain. He must have been hurting so much. "This is my fault. I let you down." "Don't cry," little Edward said, gently poking her. "Leo wanted me to give you this letter." She snatched the envelope and tore it open. Through her tears, she struggled to read the twisted handwriting. "Amelia, happy marriage. I hope you're happy. Happy New Year." Besides her name, the rest was nearly illegible. The date was New Year's Eve. Her hand brushed against the dirty old stuffed toy lying nearby. She clutched it, her cries turning into broken sobs that echoed in the small cabin. "Why didn't you trust him?" Edward asked, tilting his head. "He told me you didn't believe he was a good person. But I think he is." Amelia stammered, consumed by guilt. "No, there were misunderstandings." "How come you didn't see he was sick?" the boy asked. It was only then that Amelia realized his death hadn't come without warning. He was always frail, his face pale, his appetite gone. The boxes of painkillers. She had dismissed it all as him being dramatic. The cruel, hurtful words she had thrown at him came rushing back, and she couldn't forgive herself. Loving someone without trusting them, could that even be called love? She learned a lesson that day from a little boy. Just as she was about to leave, she noticed faint writing etched into the wooden headboard. "I don't want to die. I want to embrace spring." The writing was so light, penciled in by a weak hand. Amelia couldn't hold back any longer. She crouched down and screamed in anguish, touching the markings, her entire body trembling. She would never know what he was feeling when he wrote those words. Despair, acceptance, longing. Their last farewell was in the dead of winter, with the snow as their only witness. Her true love had been right beside her all along, and she had crushed his spirit with her own hands. "I'm sorry, Leo," she gasped between sobs. "I was so wrong." But he could no longer hear her. Back in her own country, Amelia was like a ghost. She had Mark captured and interrogated him herself, unraveling every lie. In a rage, she snatched the jade pendant from him and smashed it to the ground, grinding the fragments under her heel. The next day, a man, scarred and barely alive, was found on the side of a road and taken to a hospital. The doctors diagnosed him with severe paranoia, and Amelia had him committed to a high-security mental institution for the rest of his life. But it brought her no relief. She went to Eleanor's grave every day to drink, crying in front of the tombstone. Next to it, she had erected a cenotaph for me. "Grandma, I miss you," she'd cry. "I have nothing now, even Leo is gone." She finally admitted to herself, and to the silent graves, that she loved me. She realized it had been there all along, in the small moments. The drunken confession on the beach, the way her heart softened at my smile, the snowflake brooch she designed for me. Love had been in the details, but she had been blind. Another spring arrived, but Sophia's heart remained a bitter winter. She was absent-minded and depressed, rereading my letter over and over. She even had the messy words tattooed over her heart. She took the little stuffed toy and traveled the world, visiting all the famous coastlines, trying to fulfill a wish for a man who was no longer there. Finally, she found the courage to open the door to my old room. She hadn't let anyone enter since I left. Dust motes danced in the afternoon light. Nothing had been taken. On the dressing table, she saw the water-blue gem brooch she had designed for me. I had left it behind. She remembered my excited face when I received it. "Sophia, you're so good to me," I had whispered. "I prefer white snow, though, because every snowflake seems to be writing your name." A broken laugh escaped her lips. "Isn't this also writing your name, Leo?" she thought. The overwhelming sadness finally consumed her, and she knelt on the floor and cried, hating herself for realizing everything far too late. They had been just one step away from happiness. She held the sharp brooch tightly in her hand, letting it cut her palm, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the emptiness she felt. I woke up in a haze, unsure of where I was. The fog in the distance slowly cleared, and I saw Amelia. I was watching her like a spectator in a movie. I saw her place my toy car by the edge of a bathtub. Blood dripped from her wrist, slowly turning the water red. I felt nothing. I heard her voice, faint and distant. "Leo, do you know, I wasn't actually drunk that night. I like you." She smiled gently, then sank into the red water. A golden door opened behind me. I saw Eleanor, waving at me with a sad smile on her face. "Why did you come so early?" she seemed to ask. I turned and walked toward the door without looking back. "Amelia, there is no next life. We have no future."